Welcome to the VBSM FFL Draft Selection Show. This show is brought to you by Axe. Smelcome to manhood. Alright, well, first things first, I'm going to talk about some rules about the league. This is a 12-man league. With the top 4 teams, they will be going to the playoffs. The weeks 15 and 16 are the playoffs in the regular season of the NFL. All the other teams will be going to a loser's bracket to play for the best loser. This is also a PPR league. PPR stands for points per reception. That means players that catch more passes or running backs that catch more passes than they do rush. Those are players you want to watch for because for every reception, they get a point.
Yeah, that's right, Dice. I look for guys like Eddie Lacy, Jamal Charles, Le'Veon Bell to have really big seasons. And I understand that Le'Veon Bell is suspended for the first 2 weeks of the season, but he still holds the #1 draft position on ESPN.com. Some people will shy away from him because he's suspended, but if you look at what he has the potential to do in the end of the season, come playoff time, I think he holds a lot of potential to help your team out. With all that being said, we'll get to the draft selection after the break, so catch this commercial.
After a long day of sitting at this desk writing papers and also talking to you about sports, I need some replenishment. That's why I turn towards Gatorade. Gatorade is full of electrolytes that will replenish you. Gatorade. It's great for you.
Also endorsed by LeBron James. All right, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. If you're just tuning in, this is the VBSM Fantasy Football League Draft Selection Show. We are about to enter into the most exciting portion of our show, the actual draft selection portion.
I can't wait. I don't know about you.
I can't wait either. I think it's going to be a good show. It's going to be a good draft selection. So the way it's going to work is what we're going to do is we're going to be pulling names out of this beautifully crafted Norfolk Tides hat. The first name that gets pulled from the hat will be the name that picks in the 12th position. The second name will be picked in the 11th position, 10th position, 9th position, so on and so forth until we reach the first overall draft pick. So I think we're just going to get right into it, Dice.
Would you like to do the honors?
I would love to do the honors, thank you. So I will pull the first name out. The first name, drafting in the 12th position, is Tim Coulter. Tim Coulter is an interesting character.
He has made some poor draft decisions in the past. He was one of the few who last season took Adrian Peterson with the #1 overall pick before Adrian Peterson got into his domestic abuse scandal and was taken off the field for the commissioner. But he is someone who will learn from his mistakes, and he will be a very interesting commissioner to watch as he leads his team, hopefully, to the playoffs.
Yeah, number 12 position is an interesting place to draft. Some people think of it as a bad position to draft, but I mean, if you look at it from this point of view, you're getting 2 players in the top 13, which is a unique position to draft. And if we look at this year's draft class, the top is kind of not that strong. So the maybe drafting towards the bottom wouldn't be that bad. Yeah, let's roll into the 11th pick. Would you like to do that one?
I would love to, Bryce.
Great.
All right, drafting 11 overall in the 2015 VBSM Fantasy Football League is Ryan Gronwick.
Ryan Gronwick. He's an interesting character, fresh off a hot date from last night.
Yes.
What a guy, right?
Yes.
Fresh off a hot date, but he might not be hot when it comes to drafting. He's got the knowledge when it comes to fantasy football, but unfortunately he doesn't really have the strategy. He might look at himself, he's kind of a proud guy. He looks at himself with a lot of self-esteem when it comes to fantasy football, but in reality he just doesn't have the wins to show for it.
Yes, and we'll see this year. Hopefully there's maybe a new variable coming into this equation. Having race may distract him from his fantasy football. So we'll see how he adds that to his stress and maybe dodges some issues in the relationship as well. All right, Bryce, would you like to take the next pick?
Yes, that will definitely be an interesting thing to watch with Ryan.
Yes, I will.
As the season wears on.
Yes.
With the 10th pick in the VBSM Fantasy Football League draft, Alex Morgan. Alex Morgan, he's an interesting character. He is unfortunately a terrible drafter, and he will he will really just need all the help he can get. It's kind of sad when you look at his record.
Yeah, I have heard some say he's almost the Cleveland Browns of this league. Tries every year to get that franchise cornerstone, someone he can build off of and just get some wins, maybe go into the playoffs. But every year, sadly enough, they manage to pick the bust, and that's just Alex in this draft, and it is sad to watch.
It is really sad to watch. That is very true. It'll be interesting to see how it plays off, but he'll be lucky to lift himself off the bottom of the trough this year.
Yes. All right. I will take the next pick, and drafting number 9 overall is Alex Moore. Alex Moore is a very interesting player. He has talked to us about being a former champion, and he has said, and I quote, "I know enough to win." So we'll see how that pride, that kind of cocky attitude, plays into the season. Maybe whenever he gets his first loss or his first bump in the fantasy football road, if you will.
The cockiness is an interesting thing when it comes to fantasy football because, I mean, at the end of the day, anything can happen. If we look at injuries, if we look at suspensions, stupid decisions by players to beat their wife's children, I mean, you just look at stuff like that. Anything can happen when it comes to the fantasy football season.
This is true.
With the 8th pick in the VBSM Fantasy Football League Draft, Bobby Neese.
Oh, Bobby. Bobby's an interesting, or Booby, as some like to call him.
Some do like to call him Boob.
Yes.
Kind of an unfortunate nickname.
It is.
But I think he enjoys it.
I think he does too. He's very interesting. We haven't talked to him a whole lot about fantasy football, but I do have a feeling he is one of those silent but deadly players.
I would agree with that.
Yes. He may not boast about knowledge, but I'm going to say I think he may be the underdog in this league.
He might be the underdog, and I think he's an unknown force that might be standing on top of the league when we get to December. He's an interesting guy to look for. So with the number 7 pick, would you like to do that?
Yes, I will. With the number 7 pick in the draft, it is, well, look at that, it's myself.
Oh, would you look at that?
Oh, number 7 overall. Gosh, I cannot wait to see what just brilliant draft strategies I come up with. In my league last year, I was undefeated until week 9, and I made it to the playoffs for the first time in my fantasy football career. So hopefully my knowledge is able to carry me through to December. Hopefully I won't be struck with injuries like I was last year. Some of my key players, Giovanni Bernard, AJ Green, both of which are some of my favorite players and went down with injuries, so hopefully I will be able to avoid that.
Hopefully. Best of luck to you, Dice.
Thank you, Bryce.
With the number 6 pick in the VBSM Fantasy Football League Draft, would you look at that? Bryce T-Boss. He's great at fantasy football, but he's also just a great guy all around. He's just really nice, really funny, and he's just got a great character. He's got that vibe about him, you know?
Yes.
And honestly, he's arguably the best fantasy footballer in the league this year. His knowledge of football makes him like a key draft position. 6 is a difficult position to draft in, but I think Bryce will definitely be able to handle it.
Yes. And good luck to you drafting after me and before me.
And before you.
Yes.
Because it's a snake draft.
This is true.
Bryce is a seasoned veteran with plenty of playoff experience, and I look for him to return to the playoffs and be champion of this league.
Oh, that's a bold prediction,
It is
Bryce.
a bold prediction, but I'm willing to throw it out there just for you guys.
That's right. All right. Now, with number 5 overall, we're going into the top 5 now. It will be Tyler Dykstra. Oh, man. Tyler Dykstra. He's a potential sleeper in this league. He has the knowledge to take him to the championship. Now it's just seeing if, with that top 5 draft position, if he will actually use that knowledge, apply it, and maybe hit some gold in some of the later rounds with some of the sleepers.
That's right. All right, so let's roll into the 4th overall pick in the Fantasy Football League Draft. With the 4th overall pick, Tyler Carey. Tyler Carey is a rookie. This is his first year trying to be a fantasy football league manager, and unfortunately he is not a football guy at all. His team name, Mark Kroll's, is named after Mark Kroll's mother.
It's actually Mark Kroll's mom's team.
Oh, it is Mark Kroll's mom's team.
Yes.
Anyway, I look at that to be a fierce rivalry. We haven't got to Mark Krill's team yet, but Mark Krill and Tyler Carey have named their teams after each other's mothers. Bringing mothers into anything just makes the rivalry heat up.
So this will be an interesting rivalry to watch.
It will be an interesting rivalry, and as of right now, it looks like it will be the only rivalry in the VBSM FFL.
Yes.
Okay, so.
All right. So now we're going into the number 3 overall pick. It is, well, look who it is. It is Mark Kroll.
Mark Kroll.
Mark Kroll. We'd say he's the preseason number 1. But he is very generous. He is very willing to help, and maybe through that willingness to help, he can give away some of his own draft strategies, maybe shooting himself in the foot, especially with some rookies that are in this league next year. All right, now it's to the top 2 picks. Bryce, would you like to take it?
I would love to take it. The top 2 picks are an interesting place to be.
Yes.
So we're going to look at this one. With the number 2 overall pick, Austin Smith. Austin Smith he's a relative dark horse for this league. We don't know really too much about his fantasy football experience, but he has a lot of potential to do a lot of good things this year. He's a relative unknown when it comes to fantasy football, and that could hurt him or that could benefit him. We'll just have to wait and see how the season plays out.
Yes.
But as we get up into these higher draft positions, it gets a little more confusing, particularly with the guy that I mentioned earlier, Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is currently number 1 overall on ESPN FantasyFootball.com. He could drop just because of that suspension, but
that's 2 weeks without him. It's worth maybe taking the first 2 losses, but having him the rest of the season? It just depends on what you're feeling.
He was a sleeper last year, and he showed up big for a lot of teams throughout the fantasy football realm.
Yes, and keep in mind again that this is a PPR league, so he will be even that much more important.
That's right. He will be so much more valuable.
Yes.
So would you like to do the honors and pull out the number 1 pick? If you've been keeping track at home, which hopefully you have been, you already know who this is. But let's pull it out of the Norfolk Tides hat.
Yes. And the 7-11 2015 VBSM FFL number 1 overall draft pick is Nate Kunzman. This will be very interesting to watch, as Nate is another rookie in the league. Rookie, first time drafting, first time being a manager, first time being anything with fantasy football. And he has the prestigious place of having the number 1 overall pick. Now we'll be able to see as we get to draft day if he will take Le'Veon Bell, maybe number 1 overall. Maybe he'll take different running backs, maybe Eddie Lacy, Jamal Charles, or maybe he may throw us all for a loop, maybe drafting a quarterback. And I hope we all realize, or hope and pray for him, that he does not draft a kicker, number 1 overall.
That would be miserable, and he would have a rough season the rest of the way out.
He would.
Tears would be shed.
Well, that's all we have for you guys tonight. Please tune in again as we analyze as the season goes on. Now, this, remember, has been brought to you by Axe, Gatorade,
and 7-Eleven. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful draft day.